Hello, how is everybody? Welcome to Possibilities Cafe. Today is May 27th, and I'm Karen Barner, your host. I want to talk today about Enchanted Leadership, developing a leadership presence. I have seen, especially during this time of COVID, again, I'm filming this during that time, which I think I've said that for like 2.5 months now. Every time I do a podcast or a Facebook Live that comes up in conversation, I find during this time that some leaders really doubt themselves and other leaders are really stepping up. And I think it's because it's the level of confidence you have as a leader, it's the level of training you've had as a leader, but it comes down to the inner game of leadership. Because if you don't believe in what you're telling people, your messaging, if you don't believe in yourself, because leadership is really hard. I think it's one of the hardest things to do because you're putting yourself out in front of, whether you're putting yourself out in front of 50 or 500 people, you're still stepping up. And the smallest mistake you make gets magnified. I can remember a time I was doing a presentation and the numbers were added wrong. Now I had asked me to proof it for me, but they didn't proof that piece. And one person in the audience, there's probably a room about 40 or 50 people at that time, spent all the time talking about that number. How do we know you're right if these numbers are incorrect? It's like, it's clearly an adding mistake, but it got amplified. And that message carried probably for 2 or 3 months, which I still look back at it and laugh and say, really, it was just an adding mistake. But that's when you're willing to put yourself out as a leader, that's what happens. Because the people that aren't willing to step up and be a leader are the ones that are in the audience. You have two kinds. You have the ones that don't want to lead, and you have the others that want to lead and they're trying to learn from you. Now, we had a discussion in the office earlier because I argue everybody wants to be a leader. Now, maybe not everybody wants to be the front of the room. Not everybody wants to be at the top of the mountain saying, come on, climb up, we can do this. But everybody wants to be a leader of some kind, whether it's leading your family, leading, Bible study, leading something. Everybody likes that. But you have to, as you spread your wings of leadership, and as you decide you really want to step into it and have a presence, there are certain things that you have to learn. And I think some of the fundamental beginning pieces is you have to understand you. How are you going to respond to criticism? How are you going to respond to, people doing crazy things for you? I had a good friend of mine who was a leader. She was very high in her position, very high. And she would call people from the plane and ask them to go to Starbucks and get her coffee. And it had to be piping hot and all these parameters, because that was the kind of leader she chose to be. Now, you could argue, is that a good leader or a bad leader? Her as a leader was really good. But sometimes, because people are willing to go out of their way for you, sometimes leaders can take advantage. So you have to decide, are you going to be that kind of leader? I can remember the first time I walked into an event and I looked over and there was this big thing of Diet Cokes, and, because I love Diet Coke, and I forget what the food was. There was something I mentioned that I really liked, and I thought, well, why'd you go get this? And they're like, well, we thought you'd like it. And that moment, you really have to, again, decide what type of leader do you want to be. Do you want to, really step into leadership? Are you an accidental leader? Or are you a leader that has chosen to be a leader? Because during this time, your team is looking to you. Your team wants reassured that everything's going to be okay. And even sometimes when things aren't going to be okay as a leader, it's up to you to portray that things are at least going to be relatively okay. If you're getting ready to do around the layoff, certainly you can't run around and go tell everybody, but there's ways as a leader that you can handle it. Because again, everybody's looking at you and how you're responding. So that comes into play, your belief system, what do you value, what type of relationships do you like to have with your team? Are you going to be, an easygoing leader or, a yelling leader? Are you going to have that swagger, or you want to lead from behind? Which I have only known one person that ever told me she led from behind, and I still, when I think about it, think, how do you lead somebody from behind? Are you going to be the type of leader that reassures people, to let them know that we will get through this? It may be, the darkest before it becomes light, because you have to decide as you go through your leadership journey who you want to be and how you want to show up. Because everybody's turned to look at you, especially during COVID. Everybody is turning to say, how are you going to handle this? When I get on and make videos during, for my Arizona Alpha position, am I portraying confidence? Am I secure in what I'm saying? Am I giving accurate information? And if I don't know the answer, am I saying I don't know the answer? Because people will know. People will know if you know what you're doing or not. People will know how you come across. And there's so much to leadership. And when I look at the most successful leaders in the world, and within, even within the assisted living spectrum, when I look at them, I can pick out a leader across the room. I can sit in a room and look over, and a group of people, they walk in together, and I can tell you which one of the 10 or 15 of them are the leaders. Because leaders have to learn how to lead. Leaders have to learn how to navigate so many different areas. As a female leader, you have to learn how to navigate being the only female in a room of 10 or 15 guys. You have to learn how to navigate the restroom, because they all go to the restroom together and you're off by yourself. And conversations happen in the restroom, and then they come back and you've got to try to piece it together without saying, so what did you guys talk about in the restroom? So it's all those kind of streams that you have to navigate. Because for the most part, most leadership positions high up are filled by men. We don't see a lot filled by women. So we always have it's kind of like going through a landmine. How do you handle your purse? How do you handle conversations? How do you handle discussions about children? It's all a filling out process. How do you handle from the minute you hit the door, or the floor where your bosses or whatever, how you handle walking down the hallway, talking to the staff? It's all part of being a leader. Being a leader is more than just having your name on the door. Being a leader is more than being called the CEO or the executive director or the vice president of the regional. It's much more than that. And you have to, if you want to become an enchanted leader, you have to understand how to enchant both your audiences and yourself. How to be able to navigate multiple worlds going at the same time with confidence and ease. And that's what I help women do. Because I've gone through all the different areas. I've been on golf courses with 7 guys and me. And they all go to the restroom, and they come out and they've had this whole conversation that I wasn't a part of, but they forget that I wasn't there. Or, you sit at the meeting, you come in and, you have one chair, everybody has one chair, and you've got your purse and your handbag and 8 million other things you've got to juggle, and you can't screw around trying to find everything. You've got to be ready to jump up like the guys do while maintaining your femininity. I think I got that word right. So these are things that I really want people to start looking at, because again, I see so much nervousness with COVID, and I see so much challenges in the leadership realm that I really need to step up and start helping and guiding women to become better leaders, to become the leader they want to be, and to step up and have the confidence to apply for those jobs, to have the confidence to know that you can. There's nothing magical about being a leader. The only magical thing is understanding who you are and how to deal with all the many things going around you. And as a leader, how to deal with the many, the 10 or 15 different balls you have holding up in the air. That's all part of leadership. But I think the main thing is your leadership presence, the inner power that you have. Because you've got to be able to own the room. You've got to be able to have a strong voice. You've got to have conviction of what you're saying. Even if you've spent, an hour arguing back here with, the team above you or regulatory or whomever, when you walk out to talk to people, you have to have the conviction of messaging. So you've got to understand body language. You've got to understand how to know to portray stuff. And it's all presence. It's all confidence. It's all that knowingness of who you are that you can convey this. So I hope you stay tuned over the next couple months. I'll be doing a 5-day masterclass starting June 8th. Starting June 8th, the 5-day masterclass is talking about leadership presence. You know, what is the inner game all about? What is the outer game all about? How do you step into your leadership role? What type of leader are you going to be? There's all types of archetypes of leadership. There's all types of ways to be a leader, and you really need to develop it. So because when you become a leader, people don't look at you. When I first became a leader, the only thing I could barely lead was my dog. I was never much of a leader in school. People followed me, but I never considered myself a leader. I never had the title. And with leadership that comes with the title is much different than leadership of sports teams or your friends around you or, you know, high school volleyball. There's a much different game. So we're going to work together to up your leadership game, because I really want to see more women step into the corporate offices, more women start their own business, more women have the confidence to get in front of a Facebook Live, to be interviewed on TV, to step up to the radio channels, to have a confidence of appearance, of messaging, of presence, and knowing who they are. So I look forward to working with you. Have a great day. Thank you for joining me at Possibilities Cafe, and I'll talk to you next Wednesday. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.